2023 was undoubtedly the year of planner consumerism. In the year of our planner lord, 2023, we have seen an explosion in planner products. The stationery industry is growing back to its pre-pandemic state and still slowly climbing. And smaller brands who have been part of the YouTube and Instagram planner worlds are getting their own unique planners launched. Often these have a more beautiful design and thoughtful construction than your average $5 to $10 planner from Target or Michaels. And also this year, I saw more videos than ever talking about consumerism in the planner industry, pushing back on multi-planner systems and responding to aggressive marketing tactics from companies. It seems like we are living in a time where planner consumerism is a huge problem. But is it? Let's talk about it. So throughout this talk, I'm going to have my 2024 planners that I purchased this year for 2024 on the screen just as a visual aid. But first, I just want to say that planner consumerism is not exactly a new topic. We all in the planner community have made jokes for years about buying new planners that we don't need. And I think with the wave of minimalism and eco-friendly living that rose as a movement in the 2010s, we were all encouraged to think a little bit more rigorously about the products we let into our home. And in general, I think that has raised the consciousness about the things we are consuming. So right now we're living in a time of raised consciousness about what we're consuming and what impact that has on us and our planet. And also I've seen a lot of people feel overwhelmed and disappointed by the mounting pre-orders and release dates and marketing that dominated the planner discussion this year. Plus the YouTube planner community with its influencers like showing off their multiple planner systems and doing unboxings every few months. It's a perfect petri dish for feelings of FOMO or unworthiness if you don't get your hands on everything that your favorite planner tuber has, right? So the costs of planner consumerism are literal and emotional. And let's start with the emotional because I actually think that's the one most people have been responding to, especially this year. Now, I made a video unboxing the Sterling Ink Common Planner a few weeks ago and talking about how conflicted I was about it and how I was feeling about buying these new planners and then having to figure out ways to use them. And many of you commented sharing similar concerns. I heard a lot of people saying things like, I find it stressful to use more than one planner at a time, but I can't stop planner hopping. No matter what planner I buy, I know I'm going to have FOMO for what I didn't buy. Even though I set out to only buy 1 or 2 planners, I ended up with 4 or 5 somehow. I also heard a lot of you say things like I have to hold myself back from buying more than I need because whenever I do, they just end up collecting dust and making me feel guilty, or I have decision paralysis from all the options out there. Basically a lot of like guilt, FOMO, decision paralysis, stress going on around the planner community around buying quote unquote too many planners, whatever too many means to you. In fairness, I also heard a lot of people saying things like, well, my 6 planner system is perfect for me and it's 100% what I needed. And, you know, I buy all these planners because they all have a distinct purpose, and so much power to you if that is your reality. I think for a lot of people, keeping more than 1 or 2 planners straight is really difficult. I have personally found that keeping more than 1 or 2 planners straight is really difficult. And I think for a lot of people, the pressure, the like mental weight of having all these planners in their collection can feel really, really intense. I saw a lot of these same topics and complaints and conversation starters happening in videos that popped up when the first Sterling Ink pre-orders started happening. Basically, they started happening in June, and a lot of people were like, how are we supposed to choose right now? It's June of 2023. These are 2024 planners. This is preying on us, creating a lot of stress where there doesn't need to be stress. A lot of people were really upset with the pre-order there because it added stress at a time when we're not normally used to thinking about our 2024 systems. And listen, a lot of that stress is being created by marketing. Let's talk about that because marketing tactics encourage a scarcity mindset. So either saying there will be a limited product or saying there is a limited time to purchase a product can create scarcity. And these things can sometimes be true and still be a tactic to get you to buy right away, right? Sterling Ink definitely did this with their pre-order. It only lasted a couple of short weeks and she held it in June when absolutely no other planner brands were releasing planners. So it felt exclusive, and this would be the one chance you had to snag her planners. Now, Catherine does a good job of, hosting other smaller orders later on in the year. So it's not actually the one chance to purchase one of her planners, but it is the main event. It's definitely the easiest way to get a hold of one of her planners. And that was definitely the messaging around it, both by Sterling Ink's team and then also in the planner community. It felt really like a big event, like a big sort of like, this is my one chance to get a hold of it. I mean, I even
made a video about like, this pre-order is lasting 2 weeks, here's what I'm buying right away. So it's a big ecosystem that makes this urgency and creates this scarcity. I also want to say that sometimes it can be true that there is limited time and limited product. I think a lot of small businesses like Sterling Inc., they can't hold inventory like a big company could, or they don't have the resources to drop tons and tons of money on planners they don't know will get sold. So they do things like pre-orders to make sure every planner is being sold. And Sterling Inc. talked about this on her YouTube channel, so I'm not going to go too much into it. You can go watch her YouTube videos if you want. But even if those things are true, it still creates urgency, which is to the advantage of marketing. And once you feel like there's some scarcity or exclusivity, you are much more likely to purchase. So marketing wants you to feel like things are scarce. Because if they're scarce, they're exclusive. And if it's exclusive, you need to be part of that club, or your psychology makes you feel like you need to be part of that club, because we are really hardwired to want to be in the in crowd. So if everyone's getting their planners, your little lizard brain is like, oh no, I'm going to be left behind, and you want to buy a planner too. Now, brands are also using marketing to try to build up the hype for their product to get you to feel like buying on release day and feel like that purchase is an experience. Hobonichi is so good at this. They are a perfect example of using the sort of like launch day as a huge event, right? They have an advent calendar sort of play thing that they do in advance of their lineup reveal every single year. I posted about it on my Instagram story when it was going on this year in August. So it's 30 days and they reveal like one new thing about the new lineup every single day. Like on day 1, it'll be the theme. On day 2, it'll be like what's different in the planners, stuff like that. Often they will reveal things like new collections. So the Love It Panda was like a collection this year, or the botanical covers were a collection this year. I bought some other covers. You can see sort of another item in the botanical collection. This is just one of the covers that they have normally for sale. So they'll release collections, they'll release like sneak peeks, behind the scenes, that kind of thing. Even though the lineup itself is pretty much the same. Yes, there are unique cover designs, especially with things like the Weeks or the new HON. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say it. Still to this day, I'm not sure how you're supposed to say it. Anyways, with the hardcover Hobonichis, they will often have different covers and it'll look really pretty, and they want, those can gain the feeling of exclusivity, like you want to buy this day 1 so you get it before it's sold out, something like that. But for the most part, like the planners are exactly the same. The inside of the planners barely ever change. They maybe devote one day to the actual changes in the planner, but otherwise you're going to get your basic Hobonichi day free, you're going to get your basic A6 planner, you're going to get your basic Hobonichi cousin with very, very minor tweaks that don't ultimately end up impacting your experience of the planner that much. So their September release is always huge because they've been building it up every single day for a full month in advance, even though the planners aren't that different. And once you're that hyped up about the product and the event of buying it, the experience of everyone going to the website together on day 1 to purchase their planners, you are way more likely to buy. And again, the YouTube ecosystem contributes to this, right? We all post our unboxings, we all post our lineup reviews, and part of it is really fun. It is really fun to be a part of a community like that. So I'm not doubting that at all, but I think a lot of people do end up feeling like the pressure to have the perfect lineup or have the one Hobonichi Weeks cover that's going to be the favorite that year, or something like that. Now, Hobonichi as a brand ethic I also really like, because they really encourage your personal customization, which I think aids in the experience of being part of the brand. It's like, look, you get to create your own world, you get to create your own life, but it doesn't change the fact that like that process is hyped up so much as a marketing tactic to make you feel like you have to buy on that day and you want to be part of that event. But I do want to say that a lot of you also had really, really, really great tips to avoid feeling the mental weight of over purchasing and avoiding marketing tactics. My favorite ones that you guys brought up were waiting 2 weeks to purchase. This is especially useful for things like sexy pre-orders and other things that create scarcity, because honestly, most of the time 2 weeks go by and then you realize you don't need it, or you become satisfied with like buying just one instead of buying the 6 you originally wanted or something like that. Also, knowing what you like was another suggestion a lot of you posted in the comments. Now, knowing what you like does take a lot of time to figure out, but lots of you described how you need in your life a certain type of layout or a certain type of planner. I think for me, like, I know that I need a Hobonichi Weeks. It's just my favorite type of layout. It's one of my favorite types of planners. I know I need one of these in my lineup. So it helps me avoid buying things like a cousin, which I really love in theory, and I'm always tempted by every single year because I know that the planner I'm actually going to be in that's actually going to help me function is a hobonichi weeks. So once you know what you like, you can really eliminate the other options that are causing you stress. And lastly, a lot of you left the tip of accepting and coming to terms with the FOMO of not getting the planner that everybody else is getting. This one was so hard for me last year. The planner that everyone was getting was the Take a Note planner, and I really wanted to try it, but I already had too many planners in my lineup, so I ended up waiting for 2024 to try my hand at the Take a Note planner, which I actually got. Oh my gosh, why is this box so hard to open? Okay, I actually got for this year in the mini version since I'm really experimenting with the smaller planner sizes this year. But all of last year, I resisted, buying a second hand copy of this planner or getting a hold of this planner another way because I was practicing telling myself that it's not the end of the world if I don't get the fancy planner that everyone is buying. I sat there and I watched everyone fill out this spread, this beautiful, unique weekly spread on Instagram, on YouTube, and I was just like, I want to try it so bad, but I have my planners for this year and I have to wait. So it's not the end of the world if you don't get the fancy planner that everyone is buying. I think it's really useful to be able to visualize your future to yourself without the product and say, can I still be happy? The answer is, of course, yes. Always, always yes. If I didn't have this planner today, I could still be happy with the planners that I purchased. But also, coming to terms with FOMO means realizing there's always going to be more time. I say this all the time on my channel, but anxiety wants you to feel like there's not enough time, that you have to do everything, get everything, have everything right now. But you don't. Dealing with FOMO, dealing with the fear of missing out on like the cool, sexy new planner or whatever, means dealing with the fact that there is more time. There is next year to purchase a planner. There is next year to try out the one that people seem to be really liking and vetting for you this year. Think about it like you're going to watch your favorite creators vet these planners, see how they work for them, and then you're going to have much more information next year to know whether or not you should buy it. Now, of course, there are some literal costs to planner consumerism as well. We've just talked a lot about the emotional, mental health costs of planner consumerism, but there are also environmental and financial costs to purchasing physical planners that are really hard to avoid, even if you are not consumed by like the material feeling of having a planner.
I want to talk about those costs in a second, but first I want to jump in here and say a quick word about this week's sponsor, which is Milanote. Milanote is a tool for organizing your creative projects. It is online and totally free, so it is a great way of getting around the downsides of some other planning systems. Milanote is a mind mapping software that allows you to collect your images, your notes, your tasks, everything you need all in one place. In particular, this week, I used it to create a board to evaluate my 2024 planning system. Let me show you how it works. So what you see before you is my 2024 planner system, productivity system, choosing a planner board, basically for all things 2024 planner system. And on the right here, I have one of the sort of to-do list functions, aka just like a checkbox list of the things that I think I will need in my 2024 system. Once I have these things sorted out, obviously I don't know where I'm going to be doing my pre-planning yet, but once I know, I'm just going to check it off like so, and then it sort of fades out and I can use the other items and choose to focus on those while I'm doing this planning. And then on the right, I have sort of the palette I'm going for so that I can help myself narrow down when I'm buying new supplies like covers or pens or anything like that. I can narrow down the colors that I want to use. And then in the middle is perhaps the best part of this board so far, which is the inspiration boards. And this is where I really took advantage of a lot of the Milanote features. So let's go into my Hobonichi Weeks board so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see I have another little color palette here for what I'm thinking for my Hobonichi Weeks. And then from around the web, I have clipped these different photos of different people's spreads in their Hobonichi Weeks, which is going to help me sort of idealize how I want my Hobonichi Weeks to look in 2024, how I want it to function. I've written notes like I love these dailies, would this be good on the memo page? Milanote has this little arrow that you can just sort of like drag and drop and put basically wherever you want, like that, for example. And I use this all the time. Also on this page, you notice I've clipped a lot of these from Instagram, and that's because I love using Milanote's clip from web feature. So I'm going to give you an example. So let's go over to, this is the Hobonichi store website, and I have the clip from web feature built into my browser. It's a browser extension, and basically it means that every time you sort of like hover over a picture, you see this little save button in the top right hand corner, and I can just click on that and click on where I want
want it to save. So I want this to save to my Hobonichi Weeks board, so I can save it to my Weeks board. And then I go back into Milanote, and I can see that it's automatically listed in this unsorted column. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out and drag and drop it into the board, because this is the actual planner that I will be using for 2024. So I wanna have this on the page somewhere to show what cover I actually have. So this is just one example of how I've used the board. I'll show you really quickly. In my common planner one, I'm also using these text boxes to just list some likes, dislikes, and I have one of those for each and every single one of my planners so that I can really get the most out of this board and see what I liked, what I didn't like, what I may want to use, and what I may want to get rid of for 2024. Milanote is available free with no time limit, so head to the link in the description and sign up to start your next creative project using Milanote. Okay, let's get back to the video.
Let's talk really briefly about the environmental cost to planner consumerism. A few of you mentioned this in the comments of the Sterling Ink unboxing video as well, that mass production of any product, including planners, leads to increased emissions and raw materials being consumed. Even recycled planners lead to materials being consumed. It's still a process that production is involved in, right? So production is kind of inherently wasteful in many, many ways, except for the very, very good companies who are really on top of it. Not to mention the environmental impact of global shipping, right? This planner came from Taiwan, and these planners came from Japan, right? I'm not sure where Catherine produced her planners, but they were shipped to Sterling Ink, and then Sterling Ink shipped them out. So that's a lot of shipping going on. It's a lot of environmental impact, basically. And our products are made from mostly paper and plastic, which are not 100% renewable resources. The plastic can't even be recycled. I would say even if you try to recycle one of your planners, like, it would be very hard because the amount of materials that are like on one page, like you couldn't recycle, for example, the cover and the pages in the same recycle bin. And then also, if you put any stickers on the pages, it also might negate them from being recycled. I'm not positive how it works with paper, but at least with like food cartons and stuff, you can't recycle like a food carton that has one part plastic, one part paper. You have to separate the plastic and paper. So recycling in and of itself is really difficult, and these are definitely not made from 100% renewable resources, even if some brands are doing like more eco-friendly covers or more eco-friendly paper. It's not 100% renewable. Plus, there's the additional economy around planners, which includes stickers, pens, cases, other products. I showed you guys the other products I purchased from Hobonichi, which I do plan to use, obviously. But these are part of the ecosystem around the planners that sort of pops up as a consumer goods market. Literally so many pens. The amount of pens I have feels obscene. I know there are people who have more pens than me, and hopefully they get more out of the pens that they have. This is some washi tape that I bought about a year ago, and I still like have never ever used. Like, there's a sense of I need the planners, I need to have what's cool, and then I need to have stuff to fill them up with. And sometimes you just end up not using that at all. However, unless you are like the most responsible consumer, it is very hard to avoid participating in waste. I will say the most responsible consumer, a wealthy consumer, and a consumer who has a lot of free time, which is just not all of us. It's barely any of us, to be honest. It's so easy to use the environment card as like a trump card for anything wasteful, but to not participate in the waste economy would simply be to like not exist. You can make the argument that everything we buy is wasteful and unnecessary, I guess, but we live in a society that is built on capitalism and waste. So changing the system is not something you are going to be able to do just by denying yourself the one planner you've got your eye on. It's just not going to happen. I do believe in voting with our dollars and thinking consciously about what we consume. In general, I think for most of us, planners and stationery are things we use every day. We are enthusiastic about them. We get joy out of them. We craft in them. We plan our projects in them, and we document our lives in them. And it is okay to have a hobby. As far as waste products go, I don't think planning and stationery is like the absolute worst that you could do. That said, there are some small things you can do to help reduce the environmental impact. So for example, around the like stationery supplies, you can buy refills for your favorite pens instead of buying a new disposable pen every time yours runs out. You can try to shop recycled planners when you can. You can also try to buy secondhand planners and resell your unused planners where possible, right? There's a huge resale market for all of these fancy planners that come from Japan or Taiwan, even the Sterling Ink planners. These are really high quality planners, and people are trying to get their money back for them on resale forums. So you can look there, see if anyone is reselling one, and you don't have to cause a new product to be made just because you want to purchase a planner. I also want to say you can reuse extra space in old planners for things such as note paper, art practice, pen tests, scratch paper. I literally did this one year with one of my hobonichi cousins. I really wanted to move into my new cousin right away when I got it for the new year, but I had space in a cousin that was like from a few years ago, and I just did December in that cousin instead of trying to like finagle December in the new cousin. So you can really do a lot with unused planners, and you can also take the step of reaching out to your favorite planner companies and encouraging them to put forward sustainable options. Ultimately, it's these companies that have control of what's on the market, not you. So encouraging them to be better is a good way to show your support for sustainably produced materials. You do have to put your money towards sustainably produced materials. If then Hobonichi comes out with like a perfectly recycled version of your favorite planner and it's slightly more expensive, you do want to be supporting that decision, right? But I recommend letting your favorite brands know what you like, what you appreciate, because a lot of times they will respond. I mean, that's literally what Catherine from Sterling Ink did. People reached out to her and said, I want this type of planner, I want that type of planner. And she worked her ass off to make sure that everyone got the type of planner that they wanted out of her. So people do respond, especially smaller brands. They will respond. They will think critically about what's going on and how they can support the planner community, because they're there for us. They like us and they want us to buy their products. Now, another literal practical cost is financial. Of course, buying new planners, not to mention the supplies that come along with new planners, is a financial investment, especially boutique brands like Sterling Ink. I also see this from Paper Test Designs, Sweet Freckle Designs, other smaller planner companies that have released their own new planners this year. Their planners are so darling, right? They're so cute, perfect, fun to be in, great hand feel, great experience. I just realized I think all of these planners have Tomoe River paper, which is like the darling of the planner community right now because of the user experience. But because of this, they are so expensive. These planners can easily run between $30 to $50 just for one planner. Again, that's not taking into account accessories. So it can get quite costly, and that might literally keep you from purchasing a planner from one of these companies. And that's okay, right? Financial cost is going to differ for everyone. So I just want to mention it is okay to not have exactly the same fancy, expensive planner as your friends or favorite influencer has. It is okay. You can often find cheaper planners for less money in local shops around you, or I recommend saving a little and making a budget if you know you are going to want this special Sterling Ink planner next year, right? This one cost me about $50, I think. So if you know you want this one next year, you can save up and make sure that you have the budget for it next year. You can look into those reselling options that I mentioned earlier, or you can always rely on a blank journal and a blank notebook and start making spreads in there. A blank notebook was one of my first planners, and it is such an easy, cheap alternative while you learn about your personal planning system and figure out what type of layout you like, whether you like a horizontal layout or a vertical layout, or horizontal with memo, like my favorite in the Hobonichi Weeks. So if you want to start with a blank notebook, I do have a video, a quick start guide to making your own planner. If you'd like to see it, click on the screen. I'll put it somewhere up here. And remember, guys, you are so awesome. Whatever kind of planner you have, it doesn't matter. It matters what you put in the planner, what kind of heart and soul you leave behind on these beautiful pages for yourself to remember in the future when you pick up your old stuff and you look through it. Whether it is like a fancy planner or a cheap planner or a planner you made yourself or an eco-friendly planner or a not eco-friendly planner, having these filled up with your hopes and dreams is going to be something really special for you to look back on. So I hope this video was a helpful discussion. Keep it going in the comments. I'd love to know if anything in this video sparked your interest or made you think about something in a different way. And I hope you guys enjoy your planner hobbies and do think a little bit critically about what you're bringing into your home, especially for that mental and emotional weight that it costs you, because that is never ever worth it if it's making you feel stressed. So keep going in the comments. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.